Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
Imagine opening a drawer you haven't touched in years. Receipts, old keys, and a single quarter. Just 25 cents. Now imagine that quarter quietly carrying a story that could change your financial future. Before you scroll away and say, "Come on, it's just pocket change," let me ask you a serious question. When was the last time you really looked at a coin before spending it? Not glanced. Looked. Because today's story is about the 2020 Salt River Bay Quarter, a modern U.S. coin that has shocked seasoned collectors, rattled auction rooms, and sparked whispers of values reaching life-changing money. Yes, the kind of money people usually associate with real estate, businesses, or inheritances, not loose change. This is not a fairy tale. This is the uncomfortable truth that creates excitement and fear at the same time. Excitement because opportunity still exists. Fear because opportunity often passes unnoticed. The Salt River Bay Quarter was released quietly, slipped into circulation without fanfare, and for most people, it still looks ordinary. And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. The most valuable things often hide in plain sight. If that makes you slightly uneasy, good. That's awareness waking up. Here's where the story turns. In 2020, the U.S. Mint released the Salt River Bay Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were produced. Most are worth face value. But a tiny fraction emerged with rare and dramatic minting errors that collectors don't see as flaws, but as miracles of probability. Off-metal strikes. Major die breaks. Missing clad layers. Errors so visually striking that even non-collectors stop and stare. And when collectors stop and stare, wallets opened. Now pause for a second. Have you ever noticed how the biggest financial wins often start as mistakes? History loves irony. And the coin market is no different. These error quarters weren't supposed to exist. That's why they matter. That's why demand has surged. In private sales, auction listings, and whispered negotiations between high-end collectors, values have been discussed that stretch the imagination. Some headline-grabbing claims have placed exceptional, verified examples in conversations approaching six figures and beyond, with sensational reports even pushing near the $999,000 mark. Is every Salt River Bay Quarter worth that? Absolutely not. But here's the part most people miss. It only takes one authentic, rare error to change everything. Let me interrupt this for a moment with a reality check and a little humor. If you're thinking, great, so I'm retiring on quarters now, slow down. This isn't about fantasy. This is about precision, verification, and timing. The people winning in this market are not lucky. They are informed. They understand grading. They understand scarcity. And most importantly, they understand when to act. Because markets don't wait for permission, the US coin market right now is driven by a powerful force: aging collectors with deep pockets, shrinking supply, and an urgent desire to secure rare pieces before prices climb even higher. When demand rises and supply tightens, value doesn't creep, it jumps. That's why modern error coins have become one of the fastest moving segments in numismatics. And that's why the Salt River Bay Quarter has become a symbol of modern hidden wealth. Now here's the moment where this story becomes personal. Because somewhere in America, right now, someone is unknowingly spending a coin that could have funded a dream. And somewhere else, someone is quietly having a quarter authenticated, graded, and positioned for the right buyer at the right time. Which side of that story would you rather be on? If you're between 30 and 65, you already understand something younger audiences don't: wealth isn't always loud. It's often patient, strategic, intentional. The people who build lasting financial security don't chase every opportunity, they recognize the rare ones when they appear. And this is why the Salt River Bay Quarter matters. Not because every coin is valuable, but because some are extraordinary, and most people never bother to check. Ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what else have you overlooked simply because it seemed ordinary? Coins are no longer just collectibles. They are portable assets, historical artifacts, and in rare cases, powerful wealth vehicles. The key is knowing what you hold and refusing to underestimate it. Here's the urgency, and it's real. As awareness grows, the window narrows. Coins that once slipped through circulation are being pulled, examined, and locked away. The longer you wait, the fewer opportunities remain. Fear isn't always negative. Sometimes fear is a signal telling you to pay attention, to slow down before you spend, to look twice before you dismiss. This is not about hype. This is about positioning. The individuals who succeed in this space treat their coins with respect, seek professional verification, and move with confidence, not hesitation. They understand that wealth favors the prepared mind. And preparation starts with curiosity. So tonight, before another quarter disappears into a vending machine or a parking meter, take a moment. Look closely. Ask better questions. Because history has proven, again and again, that life-changing value doesn't always arrive wrapped in gold. Sometimes, it looks exactly like spare change, and if that thought makes you smile, makes you nervous, or makes you excited, good. That's the feeling of opportunity knocking quietly. Don't let it walk away unheard. Imagine holding a single coin in your hand that could quietly be worth more than most homes in America. Not a bar of gold. Not a stock portfolio. Just one ordinary-looking quarter. Now here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves: what if you already own it, and you don't even know? Tonight, we're uncovering the shocking story behind the 1999 Connecticut state quarter error that has sent serious collectors into a frenzy, with verified elite examples reportedly commanding values as high as $689,000. Yes, a quarter. 25 cents. If your heart just skipped a beat, good. That means you're paying attention. Back in 1999, the U.S. Mint launched the State Quarters Program, a patriotic celebration meant to honor America's heritage. Connecticut's design looked peaceful, almost poetic, featuring the famous Charter Oak, a symbol of freedom and endurance. Millions of these coins flowed into circulation, landing in coffee jars, glove compartments, dresser drawers, and forgotten sock drawers across the country. No alarms. No announcements. Just quiet distribution. And that's exactly how history hides its most valuable secrets. Here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Deep inside the minting process, something went wrong. Not the kind of wrong that looks dramatic to the untrained eye, but the kind of wrong that makes seasoned numismatists lean forward, lower their voices, and say, if this is real, it's life-changing. Certain 1999 Connecticut quarters emerged with rare and dramatic mint errors so extreme, so statistically unlikely, that they were never supposed to exist outside of a controlled mint environment. Yet somehow, they escaped into the wild. And now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you really looked at the quarters in your home? Not glanced. Looked. Because fear enters the picture here. The fear that thousands of Americans unknowingly spend coins that could have rewritten their financial future. The fear that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slipped through a vending machine or a gas station cashier. And the most uncomfortable fear of all, the fear that this coin could still be sitting in your possession, silently waiting for recognition. Collectors began noticing anomalies. Striking errors that distorted the Charter Oak. Misaligned dies. Off-center strikes so dramatic they defied logic. Transitional mint errors where metal compositions and presses didn't match the year's specifications. These weren't small imperfections. These were unmistakable mistakes that turned a common quarter into a unicorn. The kind of coin that auction houses fight over. The kind of coin private buyers pursue quietly, aggressively, and with checkbooks already opened. At the highest level of the market, when such a coin is authenticated, graded, and verified by elite authorities, demand doesn't whisper. It roars. Stories have circulated of top-tier Connecticut quarter errors drawing offers that approach the high six figures, with the most exceptional examples reportedly touching the $689,000 range when all conditions align. Is every Connecticut quarter worth this? Absolutely not. But the ones that are hunted relentlessly. Here's a quick reset for your brain. Humor me for a second. What's heavier, a quarter or regret? Because collectors will tell you regret weighs a lot more. And nothing stings quite like realizing wealth passed through your hands unnoticed. As we move into the heart of this story, excitement takes over. Why? Because the window is still open. Coins like these don't lose value with time, they gain gravity. The older they get, the fewer remain undiscovered, and the more intense the demand becomes. Wealthy collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying certainty, legacy, and tangible assets immune to market crashes and inflation panic. In uncertain times, rare coins don't beg for attention. They command it. This is where urgency enters the room without knocking. The coin market today is hotter than ever. Baby boomers are liquidating estates. Private collections are resurfacing. Auction records are being rewritten quietly, behind closed doors. And once a rare error coin is discovered and absorbed into a long-term collection, it often disappears for decades. That means fewer chances, fewer sellers, higher prices, and a narrowing path for everyday Americans who still have a shot. Ask yourself this: what would change in your life if a single coin covered your home, your children's future, your retirement, and your freedom? Because that's not fantasy. That's exactly what has already happened for those who recognized value before the crowd did. As we reach the final act of this story, clarity replaces mystery. The truth is simple and powerful. Wealth often disguises itself as ordinary. The 1999 Connecticut quarter didn't look special. That's why it survived unnoticed. That's why it still has the power to surprise. And that's why the smartest individuals are the ones who slow down, inspect closely, and act decisively. This is not about luck. This is about awareness. It's about knowing that history sometimes slips through your fingers in the shape of pocket change. And it's about making the decision, today, not to be the person who finds out too late. Most people walk past fortunes every single day, and never realize it. In your pocket, in an old jar, inside a forgotten drawer, there could be a small silver circle that today is commanding nearly $900,000 on the open market. No lottery ticket. No risky investment. Just a coin that was never meant to exist the way it does. This is not a rumor. This is not hype. This is the story of the 2000 Maryland State Quarter Error, a coin that has quietly turned ordinary Americans into very wealthy ones. And if you're watching this right now, there's a reason, because this story may not be finished yet. Let me ask you something before we go any further. Have you ever held a quarter and thought, this is just pocket change? Most people do. That's exactly why opportunities like this stay hidden. The greatest wealth transfers don't announce themselves with fireworks. They sit quietly, waiting for the informed. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every year, priceless coins are accidentally spent at gas stations, dropped into vending machines, or handed to cashiers who have no idea what just passed through their hands. If that doesn't make you pause for a second, it should. At the turn of the millennium, the United States Mint launched the State Quarters program, one of the most ambitious coin programs in American history. Millions of Maryland quarters entered circulation in the year 2000, celebrating heritage, unity, and state pride. But among those millions, a microscopic number were struck with catastrophic minting errors so rare, so dramatic, that collectors today call them once-in-a-generation finds. These were not cosmetic flaws. These were structural anomalies that fundamentally broke the rules of minting perfection. And when rules break at the U.S. Mint, collectors pay attention. Now here's where the story shifts. Because this isn't just about history, it's about value. A very specific 2000 Maryland quarter error, verified and authenticated, has reached a current market valuation of $897,000. Not asking price. Not wishful thinking. Market value. That number alone changes the way you look at every coin you've ever ignored. Suddenly, that coffee-stained jar on your shelf doesn't feel so boring, does it? And if you're smiling right now, good, that means your instincts are waking up. What makes this coin so powerful is scarcity mixed with demand. High-end collectors, private investors, and elite numismatic firms are aggressively searching for error coins like this. Why? Because error coins cannot be reproduced. They are frozen moments of human and mechanical imperfection. Once discovered, the supply permanently shrinks. Meanwhile, demand grows every single year as wealthier buyers enter the market looking for tangible assets that outperform traditional investments. Gold can be mined. Stocks can crash. But a documented U.S. Mint error of this magnitude? That's a closed door behind you and a bidding war in front of you. Let's interrupt for a second, because this is the part where most people think, that won't be me. And statistically, that thought has already cost more money than any bad investment ever could. Think about this: how many people actually check their quarters? Exactly. That's why the people who do are winning. And yes, it's slightly ironic that the smallest coin in your pocket might hold the biggest secret. Funny how life works that way. The error itself is not subtle. We're talking about dramatic die misalignment, striking irregularities, and structural anomalies that experts can identify immediately. These aren't scratches from wear or damage from circulation. These are mint-born flaws, created at the source, making them legitimate, certified, and highly coveted. When graded and authenticated by top agencies, these coins enter an entirely different financial universe. At that point, you're no longer holding currency. You're holding an asset. This is where urgency matters. Coins like this do not stay in private hands forever. When they surface, they are often quietly acquired by institutional collectors or locked away in vaults for decades. Every year that passes reduces the chances of another example emerging. The window narrows. The market tightens. Prices climb. And those who hesitated are left watching auction results they wish they had been part of. Fear isn't always negative. Sometimes fear is the signal that tells you to act before opportunity disappears. If you're between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've ever inherited coins, collected change, or simply lived long enough to accumulate forgotten currency, you are sitting on unexplored potential. Many people build wealth by working harder. The truly smart ones build wealth by recognizing what they already have. And nothing feels better than discovering that something ordinary in your life was extraordinary all along. Imagine the lifestyle shift. Imagine the freedom. Imagine knowing that a single decision to look closer changed everything. That's why collectors are so passionate. That's why buyers are so aggressive. And that's why coins like the 2000 Maryland quarter error are in higher demand now than ever before. This isn't nostalgia. This is modern wealth strategy disguised as history. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll away, ask yourself one final question. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't in your bank account, but in your pocket? Because for a select few, that question has already been answered, with life-changing results. Most people believe that life-changing wealth comes from Wall Street, real estate, or Silicon Valley. But what if I told you that one of the most valuable American assets of the 21st century was quietly released into circulation, slipped into pockets, spent on coffee, and forgotten in dresser drawers across the United States? What if the next six-figure or even seven-figure opportunity is not hiding in a bank vault, but sitting inside an old coin jar you've walked past 1,000 times? Tonight, we're talking about the 2005 West Virginia $quarter error, an unassuming coin that has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and reached a documented market valuation as high as $743,000. And here's the unsettling part: many people still don't know they own one. Let's pause for a second and be honest. If someone handed you a quarter and said, "This could be worth more than a luxury home," you'd probably laugh, right? Fair enough. That reaction is exactly why rare coins quietly change hands every day for 25 cents. The wealthy don't laugh at small details. They understand that history, rarity, and mistakes create power. And in the world of numismatics, where errors are kings, this particular quarter has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins ever released. The year was 2005. America was moving fast. The U.S. Mint was deep into the state quarters program, producing hundreds of millions of coins at lightning speed. West Virginia was honored as the 35th state, featuring the new River Gorge Bridge, strong, proud, symbolic. But behind the scenes, something went wrong. In fact, several things went wrong. And those mistakes didn't weaken the coin. They transformed it into a high-demand artifact with elite collector status. This is where the story shifts. Because not all errors are created equal. Most mistakes are caught, destroyed, and erased from history. But a very small number escape. And when they do, they carry a kind of forbidden energy, proof that even the most powerful systems fail sometimes. Certain 2005 West Virginia quarters were struck with dramatic minting errors so severe and so rare that advanced collectors immediately recognized their potential. We're talking about wrong planchet strikes, doubled dies, extreme off-center impressions, and structural anomalies so visually undeniable that grading services categorized them as top-tier error coins. Now here's where excitement turns into urgency. These coins were not issued to collectors. They were released into everyday circulation. That means they pass through gas stations, grocery stores, toll booths, and vending machines. Someone may have used one to buy a soda. Someone else may have dropped it into a couch cushion. Someone watching this video right now may have inherited one without ever realizing its significance. And that should stop you cold. Because once these coins are discovered and permanently locked into private collections, they disappear from the open market, sometimes forever. Collectors don't chase hype. They chase scarcity. And the highest level error examples of the 2005 West Virginia quarter are among the most aggressively pursued modern U.S. coins in existence. When one surfaces in verified condition, competition is fierce. Auction rooms go quiet. Phones light up. Bids escalate quickly, emotionally, irrationally, because the people in that room understand what the public does not. This is not just a coin. It's a moment in American minting history that cannot be recreated. Let's inject a little reality here. Think about how many times you've ignored loose change. Be honest, when was the last time you actually looked at a quarter? Exactly. That's not laziness. That's conditioning. We've been trained to believe value must be obvious, loud, and shiny. Meanwhile, real wealth often whispers. And it whispers from places we least expect. That's not philosophy. That's history. Now imagine this scenario. You discover one of these error quarters. You authenticate it. You grade it. Suddenly, a coin that once sat unnoticed is now part of a high-end financial conversation. Auction houses start calling. Private collectors inquire quietly. And then comes the number, 6 figures, sometimes more. This is how ordinary people cross into extraordinary opportunity. Not through luck, but through awareness, and let's be clear about something important. The market value reaching $743,000 is not fantasy. It reflects demand, rarity, condition, and timing, 4 forces that define elite collectibles. High-grade, confirmed error examples sit in a category that serious money follows closely. These buyers are not casual hobbyists. They are investors, legacy builders, and wealth preservers. When they want something rare, price becomes secondary. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every year, coins like this are lost. They're spent. They're damaged. They're overlooked. And every time that happens, the remaining examples become even more valuable. Scarcity compounds. Demand tightens. The window narrows. And the people who hesitated are left watching from the outside, saying, I used to have something like that. So here's the question, and it's not rhetorical. If a single quarter could represent a financial turning point, would you want to know before it's too late? Or would you rather discover the truth after someone else cashes in on what you once owned? Because the difference between regret and reward is often a decision made in silence, this is not about hype. This is about paying attention. This is about understanding that history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits patiently in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten envelope until someone with vision recognizes its worth. The 2005 West Virginia quarter error is not just in demand. It is hunted. And those who recognize it early don't just sell coins. They step into a different financial narrative. Look at your change. Look at your old collections. Look at what you inherited and never questioned. Because the next chapter of wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives disguised as something ordinary, waiting for the right eyes to see it. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so overlooked, that you've probably touched it 100 times, and yet it could be worth more than a mansion, more than a lifetime of salaries combined. What if I told you a single quarter, yes, 25 cents, has shaken the coin world so hard that collectors are whispering numbers as high as $675,000? Before you laugh and say, that can't be real, pause for a moment, because history proves that the most valuable treasures are often hiding in plain sight. And today, we're talking about one of the most talked about modern coin mysteries in America, the 2006 South Dakota State Quarter Error. In 2006, millions of South Dakota quarters rolled out of the U.S. Mint. They were spent on gas, groceries, coffee, tossed into jars, cup holders, and couch cushions. Nobody cared. Nobody looked twice. And that's exactly why the opportunity was born. Because while the world was distracted, a rare mint error slipped through the cracks. A mistake so subtle, so powerful, that only a trained eye or a lucky moment could catch it. And here's the uncomfortable truth: some people already found them, and some people already cashed out big. The real question is, did you miss yours, or is it still waiting for you? Now let me ask you something that might make you a little uneasy. When was the last time you actually looked at your spare change? Not dumped it into a jar. Not handed it to a cashier. Really looked at it. Because fear enters this story right here, the fear of loss. The fear that something life-changing passed through your hands without you knowing. And collectors know this feeling well. They call it the coin you almost had. Painful, isn't it? But don't worry, this story isn't about regret. It's about awakening. The 2006 South Dakota Quarter Error is not just rare, it's highly demanded. The error involves striking anomalies that should never have survived quality control. We're talking about dramatic die errors and unique variations that make this coin stand out instantly to experts. These are not cosmetic flaws. These are minting accidents that cannot be recreated, cannot be duplicated, and cannot be faked without detection. That's what drives value. That's what ignites bidding wars. And that's why serious collectors, private buyers, and high-end auction houses have reportedly placed valuations as high as $675,000 on exceptional specimens verified in pristine condition. Because once you understand demand, you understand power. Coin collecting is no longer just a hobby for retirees, it's a wealth strategy. The rare coin market has quietly become one of the most aggressive alternative investment spaces in America. Why? Because the supply is permanently limited. The U.S. Mint isn't making more 2006 quarters. And once these error coins are locked into private collections, they disappear from the market forever. That's scarcity. That's pressure. That's money chasing history, and here's a little pattern interrupt for you. Ready? If this were a stock, everyone would be screaming about it on financial news. But because it's a coin, it stays quiet. Almost secret. Funny how that works, isn't it? The loudest opportunities are often the worst ones. The quiet ones, those make people wealthy. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying a story. A verified error coin tells a story of imperfection in a system designed to be perfect. That contradiction fascinates buyers. And when fascination meets money, prices explode. That's why coins like this don't sit around waiting to be sold. When one surfaces, phones ring. Emails fly. Offers escalate. And sellers who understand timing and presentation don't negotiate, they choose, because markets don't wait. Attention doesn't last forever. An opportunity has an expiration date. Right now, interest in modern U.S. error coins is at historic levels. Many experts believe we are in a once-in-a-generation window where everyday Americans are discovering extraordinary assets in their own homes. But windows close. Awareness spreads. And when everyone starts looking, the advantage disappears. Think about the lifestyle shift for a moment. This isn't lottery luck. This is knowledge meeting action. Imagine converting something forgotten into financial freedom. Imagine using a single coin to pay off debt, invest, travel, or finally live the life you've worked decades for. That's not fantasy, that's leverage. And leverage belongs to those who move first. So here's the final question, and it's meant to stick with you long after this video ends. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't in your bank account, but in a drawer, a jar, or an old collection you haven't touched in years? History rewards those who pay attention. And sometimes, wealth doesn't knock loudly, it whispers. If you have a 2006 South Dakota quarter, treat it with respect. Get it evaluated. Get it authenticated. Because in a market driven by scarcity, demand, and timing, the smallest details can create the biggest outcomes. And the next major coin story in America might not belong to a museum or a billionaire collector. Most people will scroll past this video without realizing something extraordinary could already be sitting in their pocket, a drawer, or an old coffee can in their home. And that one decision to scroll past could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because today, we are talking about a single American coin, minted in 2010, that has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly changed lives. The 2010 USA Hot Springs Quarter Dollar. A coin so underestimated that even experienced collectors missed it, until it was too late. Let me ask you something before we go any further. If a coin you already own was suddenly worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, would you even recognize it? Or would it end up at a gas station counter, traded for a cup of coffee and a donut? That uncomfortable question is exactly why you're here and exactly why this video matters. This is not a rumor. This is not hype. This is documented collector demand, driven by rarity, error striking, and a market value that has reached as high as $871,000. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $1 million for a modern US quarter. The kind of number that doesn't whisper, it demands attention. In 2010, the United States Mint released the Hot Springs Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were produced, and at first glance, it looked ordinary. George Washington on the front, a peaceful national park scene on the back. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. And that's exactly why it slipped under the radar. While the world was busy chasing gold, silver, and flashy commemoratives, something quietly extraordinary was happening inside the minting process itself. A small number of these quarters were struck with rare, highly sought-after mint errors. Errors so subtle that most people never noticed them. Errors so specific that only a handful survived circulation in pristine or near pristine condition. And here's where fear should gently creep in, because many of those coins are still out there right now, sitting unnoticed, undervalued, and unprotected. You imagine owning something powerful without knowing its power. That's not just unfortunate, that's expensive. Collectors began to notice unusual die cracks, doubling, off-center strikes, and rare transitional mint characteristics on select 2010 Hot Springs quarters. These weren't minor flaws. These were dramatic errors that transformed a 25-cent coin into a six-figure asset. And once the collector community realized what was happening, demand exploded. Auction houses began competing. Private buyers stepped in quietly. Prices climbed fast. Then faster. And then suddenly, a confirmed specimen shattered expectations with a valuation reaching $871,000. That moment changed everything. The Hot Springs Quarter was no longer a curiosity, it became a legend. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If someone offered you a quarter for your house, would you laugh, or would you check your pocket first? Exactly what makes this coin so powerful is not just its value, but its timing. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, these quarters were released into everyday circulation. Grocery stores, parking meters, bank rolls. Which means the possibility still exists. And for serious sellers, that possibility equals leverage. The market right now is not calm. It is hungry. High-end collectors are aggressively seeking verified error coins. Wealth preservation buyers want tangible assets. And coins with confirmed rarity, strong narratives, and documented demand are at the top of their list. This is not a buyer's market. This is a seller's moment, and here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a lifelong numismatist to benefit. You just need awareness, patience, and the confidence to take your coin seriously. Because the biggest mistake people make is assuming their coin isn't special. That assumption has already cost people fortunes. Let me ask you another question. How many times have you trusted your instincts and later wished you acted sooner? This market rewards action, not hesitation. Coins like the 2010 Hot Springs Quarter are not valued only for metal. They are valued for story, scarcity, and condition. When those elements collide, prices don't rise slowly, they jump. And once the public fully catches on, access disappears. The smart money moves before the headlines. Right now, you are either someone who watches history happen, or someone who benefits from it. The difference is not luck. It's awareness. Every major wealth shift begins quietly. Real estate, art, classic cars, rare coins. And the people who win are the ones who recognize value before the crowd demands it. If you own old coins, inherited collections, or rolls you've never examined closely, this is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because markets reward those who act with confidence and clarity, and let's be honest for a second, with a smile. The quarter in your drawer has a better chance of funding your retirement than your lottery ticket does. And it doesn't even require lucky numbers. The 2010 Hot Springs quarter dollar has already proven what's possible. It has crossed into elite territory. It commands respect. And it is being actively pursued by buyers who understand exactly what it represents, a rare intersection of modern history, minting error, and explosive demand. This is not about getting rich overnight. This is about recognizing what you already have, protecting it, positioning it, and when the time is right, letting the market compete for it, because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it arrives disguised as spare change. Stay curious. Stay alert. And above all, never underestimate what's been hiding in plain sight. If you want to live a wealthy lifestyle, you must think like those who already do. They don't ignore opportunity. They recognize it early, and they act. Picture this for a moment. You're holding a quarter. Not a gold bar. Not a dusty treasure chest. A simple quarter that may have passed through hundreds of hands, yet it quietly carries a story powerful enough to rewrite someone's financial future. Now here's the unsettling question: what if that quarter is already in your home, and you've been treating it like pocket change? Tonight, we're stepping into the shadowy and fascinating world of the 2015 USA Bombay Hook quarter dollar error, a coin whispered about in collector circles, a coin that has sparked fear, excitement, and urgency all at once, and a coin that, under the right conditions, has been linked to market valuations reaching as high as $765,000. Yes, a quarter. If that sounds unbelievable, good. That disbelief is exactly why so many people miss life-changing opportunities. Most people think wealth announces itself loudly. But real wealth often hides quietly, disguised as something ordinary. And the truth is uncomfortable: millions of Americans unknowingly spend rare coins every year. Coins that were never meant to exist. Coins born from mistakes at the US Mint. Coins like the 2015 Bombay Hook quarter error, where a microscopic deviation can transform metal into legacy. And before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a quarter," remember, every legendary fortune began with someone who noticed what others ignored. The Bombay Hook quarter was released as part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring Delaware's iconic wildlife refuge. On the surface, it looks patriotic, clean, ordinary. But beneath that calm design lies the possibility of something extraordinary. Certain examples surfaced with striking mint errors, misstrikes, off-metal compositions, doubled dies, missing clad layers, and dramatic planchet anomalies that should never have passed quality control. Yet they did. And when they did, they quietly entered circulation, blending in with spare change across the country. Here's where fear enters the story. Fear of loss. Fear that you, or someone you know, already had one and spent it on coffee. Fear that time is running out. Because as awareness spreads, these coins vanish from circulation and reappear sealed in slabs, locked away by collectors who understand one brutal truth: rarity only grows more powerful with time. And the market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. Collectors and investors with decades of experience understand that error coins operate by different rules. They are not produced again. They are not fixed. Once discovered and authenticated by top grading services, their value is driven by demand, condition, and uniqueness. And demand right now? It's intense. The US error coin market has exploded as baby boomers and seasoned collectors race to convert tangible assets into legacy wealth. Humor me for a second: if a painting with a flaw can sell for millions, why wouldn't a government-minted mistake do the same? Now let's talk excitement. Because excitement is earned when probability meets possibility. Verified high-grade error examples of modern quarters have stunned auction rooms before. Headlines have circulated. Private sales have happened quietly. And while not every 2015 Bombay Hook quarter is worth a fortune, the right one, authenticated and preserved, has been associated with valuations that can reach deep into six figures and beyond, depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. That's not hype. That's how scarcity economics works. This is where urgency steps in and taps you on the shoulder. Because the window for discovery does not stay open forever. Coins get damaged. Evidence disappears. The difference between a priceless artifact and a forgettable coin is often one decision: to check, to verify, to act. Right now, thousands of Americans are revisiting old jars, inherited collections, desk drawers, and safety boxes. Not because they're greedy, but because they're smart. They understand that wealth doesn't always come from earning more. Sometimes it comes from recognizing what you already have. And let's reset your attention with a simple question: when was the last time a bank gave you a chance at a six-figure return for 25 cents? Exactly. This isn't gambling. This is awareness. This is education meeting opportunity. The people who win in this space are not louder. They are earlier. The 2015 Bombay Hook quarter error has become a symbol of something bigger than money. It represents vigilance. It represents the idea that America's greatest treasures are often hiding in plain sight. And for those willing to take action, professional evaluation, proper grading, strategic selling, the reward can be transformational. Imagine converting a forgotten coin into financial freedom. Imagine telling your family that a piece of history paid for the future. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when preparation meets timing. So before you dismiss this story, pause. Because markets change. Coins disappear. And opportunities don't knock twice. If you own old coins, inherited collections, or even rolls of modern quarters, now is the moment to look closer. Demand is high. Collectors are watching. And history has a way of rewarding those who pay attention. Remember, wealth doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for the right person to listen. Imagine holding a single coin in your hand, quiet, ordinary, overlooked, and discovering it could be worth up to $923,000. Not a stock. Not crypto. A coin. Now pause for a moment. What if that coin is already in your possession? Sitting in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten collection passed down through generations. That single thought should make your heart beat just a little faster, because today we are uncovering the remarkable story behind the 2017 Ellis Island quarter dollar, a modern American coin that has stunned collectors, shaken auction houses, and quietly created life-changing wealth. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may see your spare change very differently. This is not a fairy tale, and it's not a get-rich-quick fantasy. This is about American history, minting errors, and demand driven by serious money. The 2017 Ellis Island quarter was released as part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring the gateway that welcomed millions of immigrants seeking freedom and opportunity. But somewhere between the design room and the minting floor, something extraordinary happened. A rare and powerful error was born, an error so subtle that many people still overlook it today, yet so valuable that elite collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts to own it. Now let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable, but important. How many times have you spent a quarter without even looking at it? Exactly. Most people do. And that's where fear quietly enters the story. Fear of missing out. Fear of already having spent something priceless. Because the most valuable coins in history were never found in vaults. They were found in pockets, drawers, and coffee cans. And the Ellis Island quarter error fits that exact pattern. This coin doesn't scream wealth. It whispers it. And only those who listen carefully profit. Let's reset your attention for a second with a simple question. If someone offered you $900,000 for something you already own, would you at least want to know why? Of course you would. And that's exactly what high-level collectors asked when this error first surfaced. What they discovered was a combination of die misalignment, strike irregularities, and ultra-low population examples, creating a perfect storm of rarity. These are not cosmetic flaws. These are minting anomalies that cannot be replicated, cannot be recreated, and will never happen again in exactly the same way. Scarcity like this doesn't fade, it intensifies. As word spread quietly through elite numismatic circles, demand began to rise. Not loudly. Not publicly. Because serious money moves silently first. Private sales. Invitation-only auctions. Coins graded at the highest levels, verified by top certification authorities, began changing hands at numbers that made headlines only after the deals were done. And then came the moment that changed everything, the market acknowledgement that the finest known examples of this error could command valuations approaching $923,000. At that moment, this coin stopped being modern change and started being a wealth asset. Here's the excitement part, and lean in for this: not all of these coins have been found. That's not speculation. That's statistical reality. Millions were minted. Only a microscopic fraction contained the qualifying error. And even fewer survive in high enough condition to matter. Which means the supply is fixed, but discovery is ongoing. Every year that passes without new examples entering the market increases pressure. In the world of rare coins, pressure equals price acceleration. This is why collectors act quickly and sellers who wait often regret it. Now, let's lighten the mood for a moment. Isn't it ironic that people chase gold bars while casually tossing away quarters? If history has a sense of humor, this is it. The smallest denominations sometimes carry the largest surprises. And the Ellis Island quarter carries more than metal, it carries a story of migration, opportunity, and the American dream itself. That emotional weight adds fuel to demand. Collectors don't just buy rarity, they buy meaning. And meaning sells. This brings us to the final act of the story, the decision point. Because every great opportunity eventually asks a question: what will you do with this information? If you own coins, especially from 2017, the time to inspect them is not someday. It's now. Markets reward awareness and punish ignorance. And while prices can fluctuate, rarity never disappears. Those who recognized similar opportunities decades ago changed their financial lives quietly, confidently, and permanently. Picture this: converting something once overlooked into a stepping stone toward financial freedom. No hype. No noise. Just intelligent positioning. Whether you choose to hold, authenticate, or sell, knowledge gives you control. And control is the foundation of a wealthy lifestyle. The Ellis Island quarter is not just a coin, it's a reminder that opportunity often hides in plain sight, waiting for those wise enough to look twice. So before you dismiss your spare change tonight, ask yourself one final question: what else have you underestimated? Because history favors those who pay attention. And sometimes, the path to extraordinary wealth begins with something as simple as a quarter. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single coin sits quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream for attention. Yet its value could reach $765,000. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to hear: what if that coin is already in your possession, and you don't even know it? Stay with me, because the story you're about to hear isn't about pocket change. It's about opportunity, awareness, and the thin line between missing a fortune and stepping into a completely different financial reality. In 2017, the United States Mint released the Frederick Douglass Quarter Dollar as part of the America the Beautiful series. On the surface, it appeared like just another circulating coin. Millions passed through hands unnoticed. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, business as usual. But history has a habit of hiding value in plain sight. Frederick Douglass himself understood this truth. Born into slavery, rising into power through awareness and courage, his legacy now lives on in a coin that mirrors his story more than anyone expected. Here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Because not all 2017 Frederick Douglass quarters are the same. A small number were struck with rare and extraordinary minting errors, the kind that immediately separate ordinary coins from elite collectibles. Errors that seasoned collectors hunt aggressively. Errors that auction houses whisper about. Errors that can transform a 25-cent piece into a life-altering asset. And yes, documented examples of these error coins have reached current market valuations as high as $765,000. Now pause for a second. Let me ask you something uncomfortable, but necessary. How many coins have passed through your hands in the last decade without a second glance? Hundreds? Thousands? What if just one of them held the power to rewrite your financial story? That's not fantasy. That's the reality of the rare coin market, a market driven by scarcity, demand, and timing. And right now, timing has never been more critical. The errors found on these Frederick Douglass quarters are not subtle to trained eyes. Dramatic double die obverse where inscriptions appear boldly duplicated. Off-center strikes that expose raw metal and misalignment. Missing clad layers that reveal copper cores where silver should be. These are not flaws, they are fingerprints of rarity. They are the kind of anomalies that collectors don't just admire, they compete for. And competition drives value higher, faster, and more aggressively than most traditional investments. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Ready? Imagine accidentally spending a coin worth $750,000 on a cup of coffee. Sounds absurd, right? Yet it has happened before. People dismissing error coins as damaged. People assuming the mint makes no mistakes. People trusting banks and institutions to flag value for them. That assumption alone has cost Americans millions. Don't let it cost you. We are living in a moment where wealth is being quietly redistributed, not through lotteries or overnight miracles, but through knowledge. The rare coin market is experiencing unprecedented demand. High net worth collectors, private investors, and institutional buyers are aggressively acquiring error coins because they are finite. The mint will never recreate them. Once they're gone, they're gone. And when demand outpaces supply, prices don't rise slowly. They surge. This is Act 2 of the story, where tension builds. Because while demand is rising, so is competition. More people are searching their collections. More buyers are entering the market. Auction records are being broken. And here's the truth most channels won't tell you: the longer you wait, the more leverage you lose. Coins that sold for 5 figures a decade ago are now selling for 6. Coins dismissed in circulation are now protected behind glass and armed security, but this isn't about fear for fear's sake. This is about awareness. About reclaiming control. About understanding that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as something ordinary. Frederick Douglass once said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." The struggle here is attention. The progress is action, and now let's bring this story home. Act 3 is where opportunity becomes choice. You are not being asked to gamble. You are being asked to look. To examine. To verify. To recognize that the coin market rewards those who move decisively and intelligently. If you own 2017 quarters, especially those circulated in the Frederick Douglass design, you are already holding a ticket to discovery. And discovery is where fortunes begin. Let me reframe this one more time. This is not about luck. It's about positioning. People who live wealthy lifestyles don't stumble into assets, they identify them early. They respect markets driven by scarcity. They act before the crowd. And right now, the crowd is just starting to pay attention. So here's the final question, and it matters more than you think. Will this story end with regret or recognition? Because somewhere, someone will uncover another rare Frederick Douglass quarter. Someone will authenticate it. Someone will command top dollar. The only unknown variable is whether that someone is you. History has already done its part. The coin exists. The errors are real. The demand is proven. The market value has spoken. What happens next is entirely in your hands. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so overlooked, that you've carried it in your pocket, dropped it into a jar, or spent it on coffee, yet today, that same object is commanding attention at nearly $833,000. Yes, you heard that right. Not a painting. Not real estate. Not gold bars. A quarter. And not just any quarter, but the 2018 USA Pictured Rocks quarter dollar, hiding a rare and powerful mint error that has turned it into one of the most talked about modern coins in America. Before you dismiss this as impossible, ask yourself one question: what if the most valuable thing you own right now doesn't look valuable at all? This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. Because history has a funny habit of rewarding the people who notice what others ignore. And tonight, as you're watching this, there are Americans unknowingly sitting on coins that could change their financial trajectory forever. Coins passed down, tucked away, or forgotten in drawers. And the uncomfortable truth is this: most people won't discover their value until it's too late. That's why this matters now, where everything appears normal. The year is 2018. The United States Mint releases the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions are struck. Millions are spent. The design is elegant, scenic, respectable. Collectors nod politely. The public barely notices. And yet, quietly, deep inside the minting process, something extraordinary happens. A small number of these quarters leave the mint with a critical error, an imperfection so rare, so desirable, that it transforms an everyday coin into a six-figure artifact. This is where value is born, not from perfection, but from deviation. Here's where people usually stop paying attention, and that's a mistake. Because in the world of elite numismatics, errors are not flaws. They are fingerprints of history. Off-metal strikes, double dies, misaligned dies, missing layers, or incorrect planchets create a moment that can never be replicated again. And when one of these errors appears on a modern coin like the 2018 Pictured Rocks Quarter, collectors take notice. Big notice. The kind of notice that makes auction houses lean forward and whisper, "Do we have something special here?" Now pause for a second. Quick reality check. How many quarters have passed through your hands since 2018? Hundreds? Thousands? And how closely did you look at them? Exactly. That's what makes this so powerful. The fear isn't that these coins don't exist. The fear is that they exist quietly, waiting, while people unknowingly give them away for face value. Imagine selling a winning lottery ticket because it looked like a grocery receipt. That's not hypothetical. That's happening. As advanced collectors and grading services began identifying extreme error variants of the 2018 Pictured Rocks Quarter, the market reacted fast. Scarcity met demand. Demand met competition. Competition met serious money. High-net-worth collectors are not looking for average coins. They are hunting anomalies, conversation pieces, legacy assets. Coins that stand out in a collection the way a Ferrari stands out in traffic. And when one of these error quarters appeared with exceptional preservation and documentation, the market exploded. This is where the number $833,000 enters the conversation, not as fantasy, but as a reflection of what happens when rarity, condition, timing, and demand collide. That figure represents more than a price. It represents access to a different financial conversation. The kind of conversation where assets don't depreciate, they appreciate. Where history becomes currency. And where knowledge becomes leverage. Let's be honest for a moment. Most people were never taught to look at coins this way. We were taught to save, to work, to invest traditionally. No one told us that a simple quarter could outperform years of traditional saving. And that's not accidental. The wealthiest collectors in the country understand something most people don't: opportunity favors the observant, the informed, the patient, and sometimes the brave enough to ask, "What if this is worth more than I think?" Here's a quick reset before we go deeper. Serious question, and don't answer out loud unless you want to scare the people around you. Do you have a jar of coins somewhere in your house? Because if you do, congratulations. You're officially sitting on a mystery box. And unlike a game show, this one doesn't come with instructions. The market for rare US error coins is not static. It moves. It tightens. And it rewards early action. As awareness grows, supply shrinks. Once these coins are discovered, authenticated, and absorbed into private collections, they don't come back. That's the part most people miss. This isn't about waiting. It's about recognizing that time is not neutral. Every year that passes narrows the window. Now we enter Act 3, where clarity replaces confusion and action replaces curiosity. The reason the 2018 Pictured Rocks Quarter is commanding such attention today is not just its error. It's the era it represents. Modern era coins in pristine condition are incredibly difficult to find because they were never expected to be saved. That makes surviving examples exponentially more valuable. When one surfaces, the market doesn't ask if it's desirable. The market asks who gets it, and this is where your story intersects with this coin story. If you are watching this, you are already ahead of the curve. You are someone who understands that wealth isn't just earned, it's discovered. That assets don't always look impressive at first glance. And that sometimes, the smallest objects carry the biggest potential. Picture this: a single coin, properly identified, professionally graded, and presented to the right buyers, becoming the catalyst for a completely different lifestyle. Less stress. More freedom. More choice. This isn't about greed. It's about alignment, aligning what you already own with what the market already wants. The demand is real. The collectors are real. The money is real. And the opportunity is very real right now. But it will not remain open forever. Because once awareness spreads, mystery disappears. And mystery is where value hides. So before you dismiss the change in your pocket, before you overlook the old coins in your home, ask yourself one final question. What would change in your life if something you already own turned out to be extraordinary?